Here it goes down smooth.
Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 4:02 in the Pacific Time Zone. Time for Toker Talk Radio, and I have certainly stirred the pot, pardon the pun, on this one. That's right, folks. I'm saying if you get a chance to vote on legalization, by God, vote on legalization. Vote for it. It's amazing how spoiled we get, isn't it? I don't like this legalization. I don't like it one bit. Why? It only stops the arrest of thousands of people every year and makes it so that they no longer have criminal records for merely smoking marijuana. Think about what you're saying when you're voting no on a legalization, even if it's responsible Ohio's cartel thing. You're saying, you know what? Thousands of people need to continue to be arrested because this just isn't good enough. When I think of the stories of so many people that I've told, so many cases I've covered on this show, and I think that if I could have gone to any one of them, if I get in a time machine and visit them the moment before they got busted, right? Let's say 5 minutes before the cops are going to show up and break down their door. And I show up out of my time machine and say, hey, look, in 5 minutes, the cops are going to show up. They're going to break down your door. They're going to shoot your dog dead. They're going to terrify your children. They're going to lead you out in handcuffs in your underwear in the middle of the night. They're going to charge you with felonies. They're going to drain your bank account, both through asset forfeiture and through the thousands of dollars you're going to have to spend on lawyers. You're going to go through months and months of stress worrying whether or not you're going to still see any freedom. That's coming in 5 minutes. But I can get you out of it. All you have to do to get out of this is to agree that only 10 people in your state are allowed to grow marijuana. You think they'd say yes to that? I think they probably would. Let's go to our phone lines. We got a call from the 951 area code. You're on the air with Toker Talk Radio.
Hi, Russ. This is Mike Harris from Human Solution here in Fontana.
Hey, Mike.
And I have a comment about the current legislation and the bills in California. We've got on one side the Drug Policy Alliance with NORML and ASA. I guess with Del Sky Jones and Steph Scher and Edelman. And on the other, like you were talking about, the Jack Herer group, CCHI 16, with theirs. And I listened to a presentation of the group with Drug Policy Alliance and NORML, a few weeks ago and looked at what they had to offer. It was also like a steering committee / workshop. And they basically would not accept a personal grow for recreational, but they want to keep all of the rules in place for what 215 and SB 420 have for medical. The problem being with that is that now in California, because of the state Supreme Court ruling in favor of Riverside Health and Wellness, and then just again less than a week ago, I believe, the Morale decision, where you cannot even cultivate as a private medical patient in your own home anymore if the city outright bans it. And so if the ASA and the Drug Policy Alliance and Normal have their way, and they're able to pass this initiative that they have, then it still leaves the possibility that people can go to jail for a plant while it's legal to purchase it in California. And it's still a really sticking point with a lot of people. I mean, I would love to see both groups to get together, but it doesn't take the criminality out of somebody that wants to be a do-it-yourselfer.
Understood. Absolutely understood that point. The first question I ask any group that's proposing to change marijuana laws is, how much money do you have? So did they mention any of that in any of their presentations?
Well, I know the woman that is going to be running the initiative drive campaign in California, and they have a handshake agreement for someone that's supposed to fund the money for the statewide initiative.
Is that CCHI?
Pardon me?
Is that CCHI you're referring to?
Yeah, it's a CEHI, and it's proffered by Craig Bresh's group, CC Cannabis Coalition group, and also the same person that underwrote the initiative in Upland, California, or not wrote it, but actually funded that initiative. And the problem with that is that they're getting an initiative in the city of Upland that will allow 3 dispensaries back into the city, because the city has banned brick and mortars, even though I think they have 20 dispensaries illegally there. Problem being with this initiative, it requires a $75,000 a year annual fee buy-in. So the initiative is written for basically a monopoly, just like the cartel thing in Ohio is being proffered.
Okay. So is this handshake agreement you speak of, do they mention a dollar number?
$1 million.
$1 million for California. Okay.
That's just enough maybe for to get it on the ballot. That's not for a campaign. They're hoping that once if they can get it on the ballot, they can do fundraising for the campaign.
$1 million to get it on the ballot in California is bargain basement. It's probably going to take a lot more than $1 million, but that's good news to hear that there's $1 million for CCHI. Here's something I'd like you to think about, though. Thinking about the normal ASA DPA proposal, and when the people making these proposals make them, it's not like that they're cartoon villains twirling their mustache thinking, I know, let's make it so no one can grow. It could be that they look at the political situation going on and they do some polling and they say, hey, look, if we put grow in here, it's not going to pass. But if we do it this way, we're going to get funding. And if we do it that way, we're going to get on the ballot. And if we do it this way, we're going to get majority support. So even if you don't like what's being proposed, try to understand the people proposing it aren't doing it out of a sense of evil or malice. They're just trying to get something on the ballot that'll pass.
Well, absolutely. These folks have been, for the large part, been one of the few voices that have advocating for, the decriminalization of cannabis for the last 20, 30 years. It's just that now we have the sticking points of these legal precedents, the Morale decision and the Riverside Health and Wellness, that basically still gives the cities or the counties the prerogative to outright ban. And then if they want to make a special deal, then they could still stop outright bans while licensing these houses, where it's basically a pay-as-you-play deal.
Yeah, and this is kind of the consequences of California number one, setting up a medical marijuana system that was like, what was it, 11 lines long? It didn't have a whole lot of regulation in it when it was first passed. And now California's just kind of turned into this patchwork. You know, if you're in one county, everything's great. If you're in another county, it sucks.
The problem isn't with the people so much as the law enforcement.
Oh, yeah.
215 hit the ground with the California state attorney vehemently opposed with it, and told all of his law enforcement underlings along the line, which has not changed pretty much with the Sheriff's Association, that they do not recognize 215 or SB 420.
Yeah. California State Narcotics Association still puts scare quotes around the word medical.
It's like a white paper. Every time a detective gets on the stand and we're sitting there in court, they say the same things.
Yep, it's absolutely. All right, well, thank you for your call and your perspective on this from California. And it's interesting, everyone's different views on this as to what is worth supporting for legalization. I appreciate your opinion on this.
I'll do a happy dance for whatever passes. It's just, it's a buyer beware thing.
I get you. Thank you so much for your call. Appreciate that. We're going to take a little break here. When we come back, we'll talk more about what is worth supporting on the ballot. You're listening to Toker Talk Radio.
The beginning of the end started in 1996 when California legalized weed for so-called medical purposes. 16 years later, Washington and Colorado legalized it outright and let people sell it from storefronts. And what has been the result?
The generation of millions of dollars in tax revenue for the states and creation of hundreds of new jobs in a growing multi-billion-dollar industry?
No. Well, yes, but at what cost?
Let's see. The cost of all that police time and money that's now spent going after real criminals and prisons with enough room to hold them all?
No. Well, yes, but look at what it's done to the people.
You mean that fewer of them are dying of alcohol, tobacco, and prescription-related causes since they've switched to cannabis, and many more are receiving medical benefit from a cheap, non-toxic healing herb?
No. Well, yes to all of that, but I can smell pot from my backyard. And I can't tell my kids not to do it because it's illegal.
420 Radio, your ticket to the Boston Freedom Rally. Connect with 420radio.org through social media, on Twitter at 420radio.org, and our Facebook page at 420radio.org. Follow us and like us today. You'll be glad you did. This is Radical Russ encouraging you to take a look at the Weed Blog every day. Johnny Green and the staff at the Weed Blog are on top of all the latest developments in the fight to end marijuana prohibition nationwide. You can even get the Weed Blog on your smartphone by installing the Weed Blog app for iPhone and Android. If it's about weed, it's on the Weed Blog, including my original writing. So don't delay. Read the Weed Blog today.
The young boy fresh. Yeah, you know what it is, bro. The young boy fresh. Yeah, you know what it is, bro. The young boy fresh. Yeah, you know what it is, bro. The young boy fresh. Yeah, you know what it is, bro.
Welcome back. That's music from Wiz Khalifa with Young Boy Fresh. I'm Radical Russ here at Toker Talk Radio. We're discussing proposals in California and Ohio with respect to the legalization of marijuana. And there's some controversy because, well, the proposal that's getting all the ink in Ohio, the Responsible Ohio proposal, sucks. Let's just put it that way. It sucks. It sucks because it's going to propose that there will be 10 grow sites in all of Ohio that are owned by the 10 people putting up the money to legalize in Ohio. Now, it's not a monopoly on anything else. Anybody else in Ohio could own a pot shop. They could have a processing facility. They could have a testing facility. And all adult Ohioans will be able to possess marijuana. But only 10 people, 10 sites will be able to grow all the marijuana in Ohio. And so my perspective is, if you get a chance to vote on legalization, by God, you vote on legalization. And to me, legalization means marijuana is no longer contraband. Now, I'll make an important distinction here. I'm not saying cannabis is no longer contraband. I'm saying marijuana is no longer contraband. And the difference, cannabis is the whole plant. Marijuana is the flowering tops that are dried and used for smoking for fun. Okay. And this is why I feel it's so important. First of all, and let's clarify a couple things, because Gothic Prophet in our chat room has some great knowledge on this, and he's been dishing out this knowledge, and I'm trying to get through the chat room, and I'll respond to all of it. But he's got some great knowledge on this. Number one is Responsible Ohio is trying to try this for the 2015 ballot, not the 2016 ballot. So there is the aspect of, hey, let's just wait a year, right? Vote no on this 2015 crap and wait a year and vote yes on the 2016 that comes around. That'll be better. Now, that's a risk. And you have to calculate whether or not it's a risk you're willing to tolerate. And again, as I make these opinions, as I state these things, this is how I feel about it. I'm not, the unfailing, I'm not the Pope, right? I'm not infallible. I could be wrong. But from my perspective, you never pass up a chance to end the criminality of a cannabis consumer. That perspective might be different for some other people, but I want to throw some facts your way so that when you make the decision that you're making it, without any blinders on. In the state of Ohio, there are about 28,000 drug abuse violation arrests every year. 28,000. Of those 28,000, over 50% are for marijuana possession, that which would be made legal by the Responsible Ohio cartel proposal. That's almost 15,000 people that, if this thing passes, would no longer be criminals. 15,000 people who would no longer face a jail cell. 15,000 people who no longer have to check a box that they're a convicted criminal, and so forth. So you have to think, all right, a 10-person grow cartel is odious, but could I turn to 15,000 cannabis consumers and say, sorry, you got to go to jail because I don't like this particular grow setup? Maybe you can stomach that. I can't. I can't stomach that. I can't imagine turning to a mom of a young black man, because let's be honest, it's more likely to be a young black man or Latino man who gets busted, and say, sorry, your kid's got to do some time because, I want to be able to grow pot, and that monopoly thing, it won't let me grow pot. Because here's some of the practical things to think about. When you end cannabis prohibition, marijuana prohibition, when you end the contraband nature of having marijuana, on a practical level, you've just given yourself the right to grow. Practically speaking. Because what gets you busted? How in the hell do the cops know you got 4 or 6 plants or 12 plants growing in your basement or in your closet or whatever? How do they know? One of the ways they know is someone complains about the smell of marijuana, or a dog smells marijuana on you or alerts to it at your car. And the traffic stop then turns into an investigation of your home, and then they find your grow. Or maybe they find out that you've got a high electrical bill after they've figured out that you've had some marijuana on you. Maybe they rifle through your trash, as they're allowed to do, and they find some stems and seeds and ash, marijuana ash, and baggies with marijuana residue. Almost all of those things go away if you end the contraband nature of marijuana. Even with this cartel proposal, it's going to be so much harder for cops to bust you for growing if you pass this thing. And it's not going to make you any more illegal. You're not going to be any more busted when this thing passes if you're growing. But the tens of thousands of cannabis consumers in Ohio, hundreds of thousands of cannabis consumers in Ohio, will no longer risk jail, incarceration, criminal records property seizures, child custody losses, because they'll be able to legally possess marijuana. Now, another concern, let me go through some of the concerns here. Another thing we have to understand is we can wish and dream and hope and plan about what we'd like to see from legalization, but without money, it don't mean nothing.
Hey, bud, let's party.
It's a hell of a discussion. I'm going to continue on this thread when we come back after our Groovin Thursday daily Toker tunes. Chuck Diesel's coming up next with some great hip-hop for us. But think about it. Is there anything about legalization that's a deal breaker for you? It's hard for me to think of a deal breaker. It's 4:20 in the Pacific time zone. Light them if you got them. We're back right after this.
420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day. Are you in the market for portable vaporizers now? Get online to vapes.buzz, the quick and easy link to portablevaporizers.now.com. Vapes.buzz has everything you are looking for, including vape pens, herbal vaporizers, e-juice, parts, accessories, and more. Visit vapes.buzz and use promo code 420radio to get 10% off your online purchase, or just give them a call at 866-264-2415. Vapes.buzz. Get vaping, baby! Get.buzz. .buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everyone. 22 and a half after the hour. Time for some Groovin Thursday daily Toker tunes. Taking things on the hip-hop tip with our good friend Chuck Diesel, who's on the line with us. How you doing, Chuck?
Doing well, Russ. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, let me ask you, is there anything that's a legalization deal breaker for you?
You know, I've been messing with this because, you know, as a just across the river Washington resident, I was gun-ho 502, and I definitely burnt a few bridges with some people around here in the industry because they just couldn't come around to the light that, you know, we need to do this. It's bigger than us. We might be somewhat martyrs if you're in the medical industry in Washington, and victims of our own, I don't know, idealism, if you will.
Yeah.
But we need to move forward. So I don't think so. I mean, I think there could be, but I haven't seen it yet. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. I'm kind of getting to a point where it's like, we're 4 states in, so nothing's a deal breaker. But after we're 8 states in, maybe my mind changes a little bit, right? It's like the more states we get, the more I think we can get what we want. But I still think it's real early, and we got to take what we can get when we can.
Yeah, and we got to listen to the people who are kind of doing the political math to see what's feasible, what's not, who are doing the polling. Because, I mean, it's so easy to get stuck in our circles, I think, and where it's blasphemy to think that, why can't I have my dab rig plugged into my car charger? You know?
I know those people.
Yeah, exactly. Some days I am those people. Yeah.
No doubt. Hey, we've got a great episode of Big Daddy Fink's Funky Roller Rink coming up later tonight. I want to remind everyone, 8 p.m. Pacific time, we always have an edition of the Funky Roller Rink. And starting in March, following the Funky Roller Rink at 9 p.m. Pacific, we will have a live edition of Smoke Session with Monty Blaze, a new R&B hip-hop rap show that'll be coming to you live from Rolla J Studios. Looking forward to that. All right, let's get to today's tune that we've got from Chuck Diesel here. Fred the Godson. Do I have the right tune?
Yeah, Fred the Godson, Contraband. He's based out of the Bronx, and do you ever watch the show The Wire?
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of Prop Joe, just because he's this giant dude. He's super smooth. He seems to always be kind of one step ahead with his rhymes. He's very, I don't know what to say. He says things and you kind of have to do a double take. Like, did he just say that? Yeah, I think that's what he meant,
Right on. All right, looking for some
I'm definitely a fan.
Lyrical masterpiece here with Fred the Godson. It's Contraband, and who's the featured artist on this?
You're testing me, and I don't remember.
Well, it says featuring Friday, October, and Papers, and I didn't know if that was people or like items.
No, no, those are people.
All right, here it is. This is Contraband by Fred the Godson, featuring Friday, October, and Papers. Thanks a lot, Chuck. We'll talk to you next week.
I got the whole crew with me, ounces for $2.50. You could believe it or not, it's far from Ripley's. Please don't try to tempt me to trigger, I squeeze it empty. Army fatigues at ease, you ain't convincing B. I smoke good weed and get them packs out. Don't look at me different, I came up out the frat house. Hot sock, weird look, and gazelle frames. Niggas know me by Friday, October, code name. Back in the days, had fiends doing the fucking soul train. Ever since my little cousin put me onto the dope game. I'm just saying that I know things. I'm OG in these streets, I listen to Johnny Coltrane. Had that work for these heads, they call me road game. In front of the P's, blowing trees with a gold chain. New York City, greedy fifths on stand. Never know when you gotta use that contraband.
My whole crew good with the pan. This is soul food, give you good amount of yams. Before you leave here, count your grams. Baking soda bubble and smuggle contraband. Contraband, this is contraband. I'm a monster with this money, this is contraband. I throw some facts to my man, tell a law
I said I started off a young crack dealer. Now I'm all in the magazines. And all I knew was that hustle by any means. Let me take them back from the start. Back to my sonogram. Doctor look up in my mama belly and found contraband. I called him uptown and then I checked him. He wasn't living right, so my nigga left him. All these niggas living that life, to a nigga test him like all these bitches love me, we kick it like David Beckham. Crack music, heat maker. Fred the God, October, Oz was the beat maker. I beat the case, what I appeal for. Mama said she ready to fuck, what she need a pill for? It's not a game, well I will kill y'all. Hip hop is back to that era of real ball. And TVM, what's the movement? Let your pistol go and keep moving. Real nigga.
My whole crew good with the pan. This is soul food, give you good amount of yams. Before you leave here, count your grams. Baking soda bubble and smuggle contraband. Contraband, this is contraband. I'm a monster with this money, this is contraband. Yo, I throw some facts to my man, tell a law fuck taxes, this is contraband. Whoever knew, my revenue came from Exodus, something like a revenue. My revenue, I get 7 to scale. Learn to work with a bird like Kevin McHale. I talk to these birds like Dr. Doolittle. I pop you with a bird, the doc could do little, your block could do little. I ain't doing accounting, but you re-up with me, it's just a pail of balance. It's like, man, hey, you see me every other week. You niggas is fucking weak, get bread, not whole weed or pump a nickel. Slow niggas take a whole week to pump a nickel. Yeah, I'm talking quarters, halves, being broke ain't a joke. And I love my daughter's laugh, wanna do business with cash and earn that cake. Like the NBA draft, it's just a stern handshake, I'm out. My whole crew good with the pan. This is soul food, give you good amount of yams. Before you leave here, count your grams. Baking soda bubble, let's smuggle contraband. Contraband, this is contraband. I'm a monster with this money, this is contraband. I throw some packs to my man, tell the law fuck taxes, this is contraband.
.420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest. The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, treat law enforcement with respect and stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all of my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak with my attorney. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at omarfigueroa.com.
Funky roller ring.
Oh, yeah.
What's happening, Groovy Cats? This is your Funk Master of Ceremonies, Big Daddy. And I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you.
This is a song about sadness, shooting up and getting high. Shooting up and getting high with my baby.
Oh yeah, that's music from Michelle Ndegeochello, Shooting Up and Getting High off the album Plantation Lullabies. One of my favorite bass players out there. She's fantastic. You might remember her from the John Mellencamp video when he redid the Van Morrison tune Wild Nights. She was the girl singing with him and playing bass. You got to check out her solo stuff, man. She is incredibly talented. Really appreciate the music. All right, wanted to bring you some breaking news. U.S. Representative Steve Cohen has sponsored a medical marijuana act for the United States Congress. And, well, let me just go to let me see if I can switch over here to the video screen. Maybe we can just play this for you, because I got notice of this from Keith Stropp, the founder of NORML, who passed on the information to me. And, well, it's another one of these CBD bills. And, we talk about, we were just talking about, what would we or would we not support? And I tell you, CBD only legislation is another very controversial aspect of the marijuana reform movement. Some people saying they're not worth supporting. Let's go to the video here from MSNBC and check that out.
Marijuana and cannabidiol, or CBD, from the Controlled Substances Act, thereby legalizing certain strains of marijuana used for medical purposes. Joining me now is one of the main co-sponsors of the bill, U.S. Representative Steve Cohen from the musical Mecca known as Tennessee. Hello, sir. How are you?
Well, the Mecca of Memphis.
Wait, it's Memphis and it's Nashville and there's one other place, right?
No, there's just Memphis.
Okay. I stand corrected. Nice to see you, Representative.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Well, I want to start off by asking you, how did you get involved in this effort?
Well, for many reasons. For one thing is that whatever we can do to help alleviate somebody's pain and suffering, we should do as human beings. And certainly as Congress people and legislators, we should do that too. medical marijuana has proven successful, popular among the people in states with referendums, but popular with people who've used it to relieve pains, to induce appetite, to help with nausea and conditions with glaucoma and all those things. And I had a dear friend who, a Navy SEAL who died of pancreatic cancer, and he smoked marijuana, and his mother at 80-something years old, she said, thank God for the marijuana. It's the only thing that lets Oral smile or eat. I saw it help people.
Sir, right.
And with this Charlotte's Web, we're helping children. No hallucinogenic effects of marijuana, just a part of the marijuana that does help with epilepsy. I had a child in my district who had epilepsy and died and couldn't get Charlotte's Web. And we just need to do everything we can to help
sir,
people.
Are you referring to Chloe?
Chloe Grauer.
So yes, tell us about what happened with Chloe. I was reading your letters from October 2014. You've written a letter to the governor of Tennessee as well as Attorney General Holder, where you talked about Chloe at that point having 100 to 200 seizures a day.
Yes, Chloe lived in my district, and I visited her in her home and was on TV shows with her. And her parents and her grandparents wanted her to get Charlotte's Web, and we had a bill passed in the Tennessee legislature, but they couldn't implement it because of problems with the Food and Drug Administration and some other bureaucratic problems. It just seems they wanted to study it in Tennessee through Tennessee Tech, and they had to get an authorization to study it at Tennessee Tech and then do some other things. But Chloe never had the opportunity to have Charlotte's Web given her to see if it would work on her seizures. She died, I think it was in December. I'm so
sorry. I read your poignant words, and I didn't find anything about what had happened to her. And this is truly tragic. If you saw the piece that we had before this, also a little girl who suffered from hundreds of seizures a week. And I'm sorry that Chloe is not going to be able to see your efforts come to fruition. I know about Charlotte. Charlotte also, the namesake of the bill, she had at some point approximately 300 seizures a week, and she's been treated by CBD since 2012, right?
Yes, and it's proven beneficial, and they're studying in Israel too. It's called Raphael, and it's the same type of use of marijuana, the cannabinoids, the part that doesn't have any hallucinogenic effect, doesn't make you eat brownies and ice cream and giggle incoherently.
Now, Representative...
you were just giggling. Was that any...
Well, hey, I had a mimosa for breakfast. What's wrong with that? So, sir, let me ask you this. Do you see any legitimate economic downside to this bill?
There's no economic downside unless it's because I don't think the pharmaceutical people have anything that are helping these people either. Sometimes the pharmaceutical people will oppose alternative treatments because it interferes with what they're selling. And they've oftentimes been against medical marijuana because they wanted people to buy their synthetic marijuana that is extremely expensive and many say not as effective. But in this situation, I don't think they have anything that compares with Charlotte's Web.
Well, Representative Cohen, I do hope that you convey our sympathies to Chloe's family. It really is a tragedy, and we will continue to tweet out your efforts and support the bill, and please do come back and tell us its progress.
So that's Representative Steve Cohen from Tennessee, and it's a federal CBD-only bill. And I'm checking out the comments there on MSNBC's site, and someone puts up the very important thing to understand, and that is that these CBD-onlys, especially when they keep the THC level down to 0.3%, or when they mandate a 20-to-1 CBD-THC ratio or something like that, are really hamstringing what's already a very limited bill. These low ratios of THC mean that only 20% or fewer of the people or the children that can be helped with this are going to be helped. I'd still vote for it. How could you turn to the parents of any one of the kids of that 20% who could be helped and tell them they have to wait, their kid has to risk death because the other 4 out of 5 kids won't be helped? Man, I am to the point where if someone came to me and said, look, I got $1 billion, we're going to pass a nationwide legalization, but it's only good for people named Stan, I'd support it. Let's help help anybody we can help. Let's move the ball forward in any way we can. And besides, this whole argument about CBD only is going to go away. It's going away very quickly. There's Insys Pharmaceuticals. Paul Armentano from Normal brings this up. They've got a synthetic CBD that they are trying to get through the FDA right now. Now, if they're able to get this synthetic CBD through, then these CBD only bills are meaningless because CBD will be a medical item. It'll be scheduled in 3 or 4 or wherever they end up scheduling it so that any doctor in any state could prescribe it. Now, of course, that means someone using a synthetic and not using the plant, right? So then people are going to fight for, well, why should we have to buy Insys Pharmaceuticals CBD that costs $500 a bottle when we can just grow a plant for ourselves of Charlotte's Web and extract the oils from that and use it to take care of our kid? And then that takes us back to fighting for the whole plant. The only reason these CBD bills have come up in the first place is because of everyone's fear of the word high, all this fig leafing around the idea of getting some sort of euphoria out of your medicine. As if that doesn't happen with other medicines. So when the synthetic CBD comes along, and it takes care of these 20% of the kids that a CBD only bill would help, then that's no longer an issue. And the rest of those kids who need some THC in their CBD then lead the fight for, hey, let's just give us access to this whole plant. Why are we holding back all the possibilities here? Now, I know there's a lot of profit motive involved in a lot of this. There are companies that want you to use the synthetic rather than growing your own, but that's always been the case. It is kind of a box canyon sort of thing. Have to admit that. But as we're moving forward on this, it's going to be, there's going to be all these little baby steps that those of us with greater knowledge are going to be kind of, gritting our teeth and holding our nose over. But would you rather they didn't pass? There are 11 states now, mostly in the South, but also Utah, Wisconsin, Missouri, I think. And the rest of them are like Alabama and North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, and so forth, that have passed these CBD bills. And everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people have a problem with them. Saying the CBD only is no good. It restricts too much of the plant. No, not enough people will get any benefit from it. And especially these bills that legalize you can have the CBD oil, but you got to smuggle it in from out of state. Basically, incentivizing parents to become federal drug traffickers. Even as flawed as that is, though, we got Utah to admit that a part of the marijuana plant is medical. We got Alabama to admit that part of the marijuana plant is medical. And so once that threshold has been crossed, it's not too hard to get them to recognize that the rest of the plant has medical value and that the rest of the plant has industrial value and so forth. The door is open now, and that may have been the only way we could have opened that door for years. So to bring it back to the Ohio discussion, earlier in the hour, we were talking about how there's this constitutional monopoly proposal for 2015 in Ohio, how awful it is. It would only have 10 wealthy investors growing all the marijuana in Ohio, but anybody could buy it, anybody could sell it, but only they could grow it. And one of Gothic Prophet's points, and this is a good point, is not that it'd just be bad for Ohio, but it would set a dangerous precedent for other initiative states by saying cannabis legalization is for sale to the highest bidder. Well, let's presume that's true. Let's presume it does set a precedent that really wealthy people could buy themselves their own industry in a state. How bad would that be if you're sitting in Kansas wishing that legalization would come your way? Suppose Sir Richard Branson walks into Kansas walks into the Kansas legislature, and I'm picking on Kansas here because Kansas is flat broke. They're cutting like 25% of the budget of their schools because their governor isn't such a trickle-down, don't tax the rich guy, that all those policies have now come to roost, and the state's broke, right? So let's say Sir Richard Branson comes walking into Kansas, and he says, all right, Kansas, we're going to legalize you. But this legalization means only I can grow cannabis. Only I, Richard Branson, and he'll probably name it Virgin something, right? Virgin pot grow, whatever. But only I, Richard Branson, can grow marijuana. Anybody else can buy it. Anybody else can sell it. But only I, Richard Branson, can grow it. Would you jump at that chance, Kansas? Nope. Nope, keep locking us up until we all get to grow. I can't get on that train. I just can't get on that train. It's the prohibition that I care about. Now, for a lot of people, I imagine the growing part and the using part aren't as separate to them. And maybe that's where my perspective is different. I'm not a pot grower. I've tried. I suck at it. So for me, it doesn't matter whether home grow's legal or not. I'm not going to grow at home. I just want to go be able to buy at a pot store and not get busted when I have weed on me. So the cartel thing, I don't care. I really don't care. Ooh, 10 people might make a bunch of money on it. How's that any different than the rest of the world where rich people make money on shit? It's the way the world works. I'm concerned about me and my friends and whether or not we go to jail. Now, again, I'm not saying don't fight this Responsible Ohio thing from getting on the ballot. You want to oppose it before it makes the ballot, and you want to throw your support behind other better proposals, absolutely. But I think as reformers, God, I'd really be happy if everyone came together on this idea that we fight like hell amongst ourselves to get on the ballot. But once we're on the ballot, we need to close ranks against the real enemy. And that's the law enforcement, the pharmaceutical companies, and the prohibition that continues to treat us like criminals. And so there's the idea. Let's say it does become a precedent and a rich person can come in and buy legalization in your state. How bad is that? If your choice is you're never going to legalize or some rich person's going to buy it for you, hell, take the buy it. Now, I think Gothic Prophet's point, though, is that we don't have to have the rich person buy it because there's a plenty good chance to pass in 2016. My problem with that thinking is I don't see a track record in Ohio that gives me that kind of confidence. Right? I don't see a group out of any of them. OTEP, Org, Rock, whatever the hell they're all called. I don't see among any of them that they've got major national supporters, high profile political supporters, and a shit ton of cash. If there were one other group in Ohio that had the support of the entire community, was loaded to the gills with money, and had the national orgs behind them, aiming for 2016, then yeah, you'd be hearing from me, screw this 2015 thing, to hell with the cartels, vote against it. I don't have that confidence in Ohio. All I see going on right now is one big group with a lot of money and a good chance of getting on the ballot, and 4 little groups that have been at it for a decade or longer that haven't really moved anything. So that's part of the consideration you have to take as well. We had that same push in Washington, right? When I-502 came out, it was like, don't vote for 502. It's got the 5 nanogram per se, and it's got the no home grow, and by God, we'll just vote for the better thing that comes along. Would the better thing have come along? It's hard to tell. Had only Colorado passed in 2012, and both Oregon and Washington had failed in 2012, do you think that feeling of inevitability of legalization would be so great anymore? Or would it be more a tale of Colorado got lucky, it was a fluke, and it's going to remain the only fluke state in the nation? It's hard to retroactively figure out what these things might or might not have been. But I want legalization now. I want to see tens of thousands of people no longer being criminals now. And if Responsible Ohio's got the best chance of doing that, I have to hold my nose and accept the odious parts to avoid tens of thousands of people going to jail. That's what's most important to me.
Elitist. Just like any other dishwashing, burger flipping, public school educated, self-employed, bar band, musician, National Guardsman, he's Radical Russ.
420 Radio, your ticket to the High Times Cannabis Cups. You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herbage Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herbage Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herbage Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herbage Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herbage and Herb Thrasher. Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
This weed game, man, it's the game for me. It makes a lot of paper. Sure do. And I'm trying to be a rich man. Real talk. Gonna get you a little bit of loot. I like him. You wanna be a rich man? Yeah.
You smoke it every day and you smoke it every night. You smoke it in the joint, blunt, bong, or in a pipe. Puff, puff, and pass. All you gotta do is ask. Marijuana 101, the only class that I can pass. I'm about to grow the most.
All right, welcome back, everyone. 52 after the hour. Last segment here on Toker Talk Radio. Continuing our discussion of, is there a deal breaker in legalization for you? There might be for you. For a lot of people, it's home grow. If there's no home grow, they can't support it. And for me, I can't get behind that because the number of arrests for grows are far fewer than the number of arrests for possession. So many, many more lives are impacted by possession being illegal than growing being illegal. And you're not going to get a situation where growing is legal and possession's illegal. So if there's only a political opportunity to get one of those things, you're going to get possession being legal. And that's the situation we're looking at with Responsible Ohio and their cartel proposal. Now, Gothic Prophet made the point that it could set a precedent. If we set this precedent that wealthy people could come in and set up their own constitutional monopolies. Well, number one, I don't think there's going to be a precedent set because the precedent involved here has nothing to do with marijuana. It has to do with how Ohio legalized casino gaming. They legalized casino gaming by having 4 sites, 4 casinos statewide in the Constitution that are allowed to have casinos. Those 4 sites are all owned by one gaming company. That one gaming company is the one that put up all the money to get the initiative on the ballot. So it's already been a set precedent. The precedent's already set in Ohio that if you're an industry that wants to legalize yourself, here's the way to do it. And that's why Responsible Ohio and their whole marijuana thing looks the way it looks. I don't know that that's going to fly in another state. And this argument about you can't vote for legalization because it's going to set a nasty precedent doesn't seem to be the case in what we've found so far. Washington State legalized with no home grow and a 5 nanogram per se limit. And the fear from the 502 people, anti-502 people, was it's going to set a nasty precedent. The next states are all it's going to set the precedent. Well, guess what? The next states didn't follow the precedent. Both Ohio and Alaska did not include a 5 nanogram per se. Both Oregon and Alaska. And both Oregon and Alaska allow for home grow. So the Washington precedent didn't end up getting set. In Colorado and Washington, they set the precedent of extremely high taxation at multiple levels. And some people, even in Colorado, that argued against Amendment 64, said the tax was too high. It's too high a tax. It's going to leave the black market in charge and so forth. We're afraid that precedent would be continued, and it didn't. Both Oregon and Alaska did not institute exorbitant multi-level taxation. They set flat weight-based taxation. So the argument that there's going to be a precedent set, I don't think rings true for me, because I think this is kind of a case that's specific to Ohio with the way they legalize their casinos and so forth. Now, another point is that Responsible Ohioans for Cannabis submitted their language today for 99 plants and 99 kilograms. Well, gee, why stop there? Hell, why not make it, 1,000 plants and a ton? Why not? Why stop at 99 and 99? Oh, because of the federal limit. Yeah, if you're over the federal. But hell, 1 plant's over a federal limit. I love the people at Responsible Ohioans for Cannabis. Tanya Davis is one of my favorite people in activism. And I understand folks like her and folks like that are in the Jack Herer camp that really think that marijuana ought not to be limited at all. Ought to be like dandelions. How many dandelions in your yard? Who gives a shit? Right? That's what they think of cannabis. They think it shouldn't matter. The government shouldn't care how many plants you have. But guess what? They do. And so do your neighbors. And so do most voters. And I'm sorry to say it, 99 plants and 99 kilograms, that's 218 pounds, are not going to pass. And just with those limits right there, those are not going to pass. And then you add on the rest of the stuff Responsible Ohioans for Cannabis has. Free all the pot prisoners. There's a bunch of other stuff. It's not going to pass. You're going to have law enforcement and parents groups saying 99 plants, oh my God, that's going to allow drug dealers to move into Ohio, set up massive cannabis farms, and deal weed all throughout the Midwest, Rust Belt. Trying to think of what is that area called. I can hear the attack ads already. 99 kilograms of marijuana. Enough marijuana to roll 180,000 joints. I don't know what the actual number is, but, I can already hear the attack ads on this. And then there's, Ohioans to End Prohibition. There's Ohio Rights Group that wants to go on with medical marijuana. Enshrining a cartel in the Constitution is not a good idea. Well, I agree that it's not a good idea, but there's a cartel on casinos in the Constitution, which I also don't think was a good idea. And here's another thing to consider. Even if Responsible Ohio goes forward and they get on the ballot and they win, aren't there some Native American tribes in Ohio? And don't they have the right now to regulate cannabis cultivation and such? Would the Ohio State Constitution overrule these tribes' sovereignty? Let's see. Gunner in the chat room said, I can't vote for the rich getting richer. Well, that pretty much means you can't vote in America. Can't support an effort that says legalization is for sale to the highest bidder. Why? Why is that a deal breaker? Every legalization that has passed because of rich people getting in it, getting involved in it. Maybe it's not been as direct a link as this Ohio thing has been, but you can't win without rich people. Oh my, I could go on this for another hour, but I gotta take a break. Got a meeting with Portland Normal to go to in less than an hour now, so that's all the time I got for today. Time flies when you legalize. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your opinions on this issue. We'll keep discussing it throughout the rest of the week. For everyone here at Roller J Studios, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you